I'll give you an example. I'll give you one example of one sector for those of you who are in the IT software industry here who will relate to this, and others I think should be able to, in general, understand this. When I said market drivers, that's what we look at as investors. We look at what are the market drivers because they're going to be our preferred investments. So let's have a look. We all know today, this is applying to today's environment, shrinking IT budgets, demand for higher service levels, rising energy demands. People want to reduce the rising energy demands because the cost of oil has gone up. Software upgrade charges, increased security threats, increased demand and need for mobility. These are all market drivers. So what do people do when they think about these market drivers? They say, let's create solutions and technologies to meet that, which is what happened. SaaS, cloud computing, storage, mobile applications. These are the answers to the market drivers and what we look at. For those sitting in the audience, some of you, I think, would have looked at it and said, Yishai has brought up 4 points which are critical for investors or for entrepreneurs to focus on and to show investors. But he's missed out on one that people even spoke about earlier this morning. So I haven't. I've specifically left it for a separate slide. What do investors really look for? Those 4 things they look for. What is the 5th thing they look for? I say this over and over and over to people. And as was said as well before, there is capital. I don't believe there is enough capital focused on early stage startups. I think there's a lot of capital focusing on private equity, on infrastructure projects, on mezzanine, on pre-IPO. But the critical element is people. This is what we look for. We do not invest in companies. Venture capital funds do not invest in companies. They invest in the people which are in the companies. If a company, an entrepreneur, or a few entrepreneurs are not able to show or demonstrate that they have the right people with the right background, and if they don't have the right background, if they're students and they don't have the experience, they have to show the passion, they have to show the ambition, they have to show the leadership, they have to show the excitement. So again, there are a lot of cynics, unfortunately, in Singapore. They say, we don't have the people, we don't have the technology people, they're not entrepreneurs. I think it's not true. I think it's a lie. I think in Singapore there are entrepreneurs. There are people. I think there are people who are very clever and have ideas. So sometimes they don't have the leadership qualities. They sometimes don't have the vision. So what do you do? What do you do to attract people like me or other investors? You go out and you attract some of the people who are on the stage this morning. You attract people in the audience here. You attract people like Elaine, who's going to speak in the next session, who is an entrepreneur, a successful entrepreneur. You bring them in. You bring them in to help you. You bring them in to advise you. You bring them in and you come with them to the investors and you say, look, this is our idea, but we haven't got management experience, but we know we haven't got management experience, so we're going to bring in a CEO who's going to help us. We have an idea, but we don't have the technology people. We're going to bring that in. We're going to bring in the co-founder of Baidu because he's got the experience and he's got the connection and he thinks this is a great idea. So we've gone out and he's going to come and help us. That's what you do. And that is what is convincing above all else to investors and particularly to venture capital funds. So let me sum up. Let me try and sum up the 3 topics that I tried to and I wanted to bring together. There are certain ingredients that are required. I've shown you that. We've spoken about that. To create a flourishing ecosystem. And Singapore is no doubt building on that. A great job in terms of investing in research and development, in terms of investing in research institutes, in bringing in foreign talent, in best market practices in terms of accounting and in terms of legal, in terms of tax. They're doing that, building the building blocks. But entrepreneurship and the entrepreneurship culture takes time. It cannot just be clicked. You cannot just invent it. You can't just fly to Israel or to the Silicon Valley or to China and say, how did you do it? Let's try and import that into Singapore. And it's the people which are the critical element. That you can do. You can bring in people. You can bring in people, which is being done. And you can help. If you are not the right person, you should have the ability and understand, I am involved in the company as a founder, but I will step aside and bring somebody in who can help me. Don't be afraid to do that. That's what we're going to ask in any case. And many times there are entrepreneurs who are very, very possessive, understandably, and they say, no, we're not going to let somebody else come in and help us. That's a mistake in my opinion. Companies at a more mature stage, those that are already in growth, those that have already revenues. They should focus on execution and building their competitive advantages over the next 2 years. Entrepreneurs now, those that are starting businesses, those that are an earlier stage, should ask yourself, what do the investors want to know? Not what I think, not what I think that I'm so great, I have the greatest idea, but what do the investors want to know? Do your homework. All those points that I presented. Do your homework, and then I believe you'll be able to attract the investors, and certainly then we welcome you to come and speak with us, and we'll be glad to help you. Whether we invest tomorrow is irrelevant, but we'll be glad to help you because we know that if we can work together, then eventually within 6 months, a year, year and a half, we will invest in you, and hopefully together we'll build a real company. Thank you.
Let's thank Mr. Klein.